My mother-in-law brought her own cake to my wedding reception, so I had security remove her. My mother-in-law Linda has always been controlling, but I thought she'd behave on my wedding day. During our engagement, she constantly criticized my choices. She hated my dress, too revealing, my venue, too modern, and especially my cake choice. I'd ordered a beautiful 3-tier vanilla and chocolate cake from a renowned bakery that cost $800. Linda kept insisting I change it to her family's traditional fruitcake recipe that nobody actually likes. When I politely declined, she said I was disrespecting family traditions, and that my husband would be disappointed in my choices. My fiancé Mark backed me up, but Linda wouldn't drop it. 2 weeks before the wedding, Linda called me crying, saying she'd had a revelation and wanted to contribute something meaningful to our special day. She offered to pay for the flowers as her wedding gift. I was touched and thought maybe we were finally bonding. She seemed genuinely excited and kept asking about the reception timeline. The morning of the wedding, everything went smoothly. The ceremony was perfect, and we headed to the reception venue. That's when I noticed Linda had arrived with several large boxes that she was directing her sister to carry inside. When I asked what they were, she smiled mysteriously and said it was her special surprise. During cocktail hour, the catering manager approached me looking confused. She said there was an issue with the cake display and needed me to see something. I followed her to the dessert area and nearly fainted. Next to my beautiful wedding cake was an enormous 3-tier fruit cake decorated with tacky plastic flowers and a sign reading, Linda's traditional family recipe, the real wedding cake. Linda had literally brought her own cake to compete with mine. She'd positioned it prominently and even moved my cake to the side to make room. When I found her, she was telling guests that her cake was made with real love and family tradition, unlike my store-bought nonsense. I was furious but tried to handle it quietly. I asked Linda to remove her cake, explaining that this was inappropriate and hurtful. She laughed and said, "Oh honey, now the guests have options. Mark grew up eating my fruitcake, so he'll definitely prefer it. You'll see." That's when Mark appeared, having heard the commotion. When he saw the setup, his face went red. He told his mother this was completely unacceptable and demanded she remove her cake immediately. Linda started crying, saying we were ungrateful and that she'd worked all night to make it special. Mark gave her one final warning. When she refused and started making a scene about not being appreciated, I'd had enough. I signaled to our security guard, who we'd hired specifically because I worried about wedding crashers, and asked him to escort Linda out for disrupting the reception. The look on Linda's face was priceless. She went from smug to shocked to absolutely hysterical. She started screaming that we were throwing away family and that Mark would regret this forever. The security guard professionally but firmly escorted her out while she clutched her ridiculous fruitcake. The rest of the reception was amazing. Guests kept coming up to congratulate us on handling that beautifully, and several said they couldn't believe Linda's audacity. My cake was delicious and perfectly portioned for our guest count, unlike Linda's massive fruitcake that nobody wanted anyway. The best part? Linda's sister, who'd helped carry in the cake, quietly apologized to me later. She admitted Linda had been planning this surprise for weeks and had specifically made the cake huge to overshadow mine. She said Linda was convinced Mark would be so impressed he'd realize he married the wrong woman. Update: Linda has been posting on Facebook about how we're disrespectful and ungrateful for her thoughtful gesture. The comments have been brutal, with even her own friends calling her behavior inappropriate. Mark's dad called to apologize and said Linda would not be welcome at family events until she apologized to both of us. Mark and I are happily married and enjoying our actual wedding cake from the freezer on our 1-month anniversary. Linda can keep her fruitcake and her drama. We're building our own traditions now.